Finally, the wave of spot XRP ETFs has a launch date. We will have a conversation about it. Information regarding Ripple's banking license is also available to us. Will we hear anything this week? We are now in the 120-day time frame. Next week, we'll see a Ripple swell as well. A lot of things are going on. This is your full update. Canary Capital Stephen McClurg on hints being dropped by Bloomberg. Come on. The first query is the most obvious. At a time when the federal government and the SEC are closed, how did you manage to get these ETFs approved? Excellent query. Thank you for having me, Scarlett. In fact, what we're doing now was made possible when the SEC adopted the basic listing rules for cryptocurrencies back in September. Thus, those general listing requirements effectively allowed the exchanges to introduce any cryptocurrency, including single-token cryptocurrency exchange-traded funds, ETFs, that have a futures market in the United States for longer than 6 months. Thus, we could depend on that rule to submit these ETFs without incurring any fees. Okay, then allow me to just demonstrate this for you. Eleanor Tarrant, who has the dirt? The delaying provision that prevents a registration from becoming automatically effective and grants the SEC timing control was removed from Canary Fund's amended S1 for its XRP spot ETF. Assuming the NASDAQ approves the A8AU filings, Canary's XRP ETF will launch on November 13th. However, the government reopening may influence the timing, possibly moving it up if the filing is finished and the SEC is fully satisfied, or if staff members request or purpose additional comments. It's important to note, though, that the SEC chair himself does not directly address ETF launches, suggesting that he supports businesses using the auto-effective technique. Paul Atkins stated yesterday. He praised the same legal processes Bitwise and Canary utilized to debut, and was happy to see startups like MapLight going public during the shutdown with a 20-day statutory waiting time. I have now been saying, wow, we are going to get Ripple swell leading right into the ETF for the past few days. Therefore, if anyone is unsure or intrigued, now is the time to decide whether to join or leave. Very soon, there will be a lot of very positive news. If necessary, kindly seek that financial advisor. I'll provide you additional details about this. What's next? Bitwise, Franklin Templeton, 21 shares, Wisdom Tree, Grayscale, Canary Capital, and CoinShares are among the at least 7 active S1 filings for embedments under the SEC evaluation for big issuers. This suggests that a surge of institutional capital may be on its way to our shores. According to Stephen McClurg, between $5 and $10 billion might be invested in spot ETF products like XRP within the first 30 days. Now, it would be amazing if we could achieve even $1 billion, but $5 billion would be revolutionary. I also wanted to mention that this was all planned because the delaying amendment was just deleted by Canary Funds and other issuers. Ladies and gentlemen, I understand that you're wondering if the market is targeting XRP. This was scheduled immediately following the swell. I suppose. Even though we presumably should have anticipated this, it has already happened. Therefore, this lands on November 13th, 20 days after the most recent filing for Canary. Let's get this. Let's go. Baby, I feel great. Bill Morgan continues. It's encouraging to learn that the spot XRP ETF may launch on November 13th. According to John Squire, the OCC's 120-day assessment of Ripple's application to create the Ripple National Bank Trust comes to a close today. An important milestone for XRP and digital banking would be reached if Ripple is accepted as a federally regulated bank. On all of this, I also found some information here. No formal announcement has been made as of yet. You will receive a video on that day and at that hour, I promise. I'll release it as soon as I can. As a result, even though the 120-day review period is coming to a finish or has already ended, the OCC has not yet made a final decision public or released a thorough poster update, despite the fact that Ripple's July 2025 file was anticipated to expire on October 30th or November 1st. I'll explain why this is significant for XRP as soon as you have this information. Listen up, please. This is Rob Cunningham's executive thesis. If you would want these updates, please make sure you are following him. Ripple can become a regulated global settlement and asset services platform if it obtains bank-like permissions, a U.S. national bank charter or state ILC, as well as important foreign licenses. It can also operate RL stablecoins, such as RLUSD, RL Yen, and RL Euro, and run them on the XRP ledger rails under Basel, Caliber Risk, Capital, and Compliance Stack. Central banks, sovereign treasuries, and regulated financial institutions could all use that platform to tokenize real-world assets like stocks, bonds, commodities, derivatives, real estate, and loans, as well as to issue custody, trade, and settle stablecoins. Debt, Basel III capital liquidity governance, BSA and AML FATF controls, and ISO 2022 native messaging are combining today's sluggish correspondent chains into a single highly compliant operating layer. Ripple can become a compliance-first global neo-banking platform with the correct charters, prudential regimes, and partnerships. It will be able to take in cross-border payment flows from correspondent networks to power software tokenized markets and CBDCs, and it will be able to monetize compliance at scale through issuance, custody, and settlement. Basel. 3. Guardrails for BSA FATF ISO 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, because that's what you're asking, what's the impact on XRP here? With our XRP, what are we going to do? What would happen if Ripple Bank received official approval and XRP took over as the main settlement and liquidity token for its regulated ecosystem? Because of the exponential growth in economic demand, XRP would go from being a speculative asset to a regulated financial infrastructure. Guys, could you please like the video? This is really fantastic. I adore it. It's new energy. Additionally, the demand for XRP is structurally shifting from speculative to utility-driven. Today, speculation dominates the market and drives XRP's value. In the event that XRP is adopted under a Ripple Bank framework, it will be a mandatory utility asset needed for settlement liquidity between all tokenized assets on the XRP ledger, as well as for transaction fees, compliance verification across billions of high-value financial messages, collateral and interbank treasury, and derivative clearing functions. As a result, XRP becomes essential in regulated settlement flows rather than optional. Volume and velocity effects, token velocity drops, float demand increases, Basel III and liquidity laws necessitate pre-funded, high-quality settlement collateral. Much like Swift messaging is dependent on correspondent Nostrovoster liquidity and is implemented on a frictionless tokenized train. The circulating supply decreases as volume rises, causing scarcity, since banks, sovereigns, and other institutions retain XRP as liquidity reserves, similar to Tier 1 capital equivalents for tokenized payments. Price growth as an illustration of the flow scale. Here he provides a sort of illustration of what this could accomplish. It states that if 10% of the market is settled using XRP on Ripple's bank-backed network, the needed flow would be 2.1 trillion equivalent demand, with a 3-day velocity and about 120 settlement turns annually. At today's 15 billion non-skilled supply value equilibrium, 20 billion XRP are locked in active liquidity operations, even if the price of XRP is only $100. May, in theory, surpass $140 to $200 per token, contingent on collateral requirements and velocity, and suggests a 46 to 66 price spike from today's $3 pricing. You can like the video, leave a comment below, or share this with a friend or family member to show your support for the channel. Thank you, and I hope to see you again soon. Peace.